Good evening.
Good evening.
I'll be brief. I am here with regard to...
Sorry, just need your name and address.
My name is Chris Pickering. I live at 8822 West 131st Place in Overland Park. And I am here for Mr. Hamlin, and with regard to the ordinance to condemn property along the corridor 159th through 179th Street. And we are here to oppose that and to point out some reasons why we believe that this condemnation is not necessary. Not in whole, just that the condemnation to make it wide enough for 4 lanes is not necessary, and that the council should not consider that at this time. There are really 3 things that I looked at that I would like to bring to the council's attention. The first is the traffic volume that is listed on the website of the city, and it shows what the traffic volumes were. There were traffic volumes in 2012, 2013-14, and 2015. The second thing I looked at was the planning committee meetings from the Public Works Committee on July 26, 2017. And what the planning committee did on that date was to look at the ordinance, which had originally provided for 4 lanes. And they decided that given the traffic volume in the area at the time, that they would reduce the lanes to 2 lanes. In particular, Mr. Lyons asked the staff if they expected the roadway to ever expand to 4 lanes. And Mr. Mateo replied that it would be a long time before it's expanded to 4 lanes, if ever. The last thing I looked at was an FAQ that was provided to the residents as part of their presentation of what the plan would be. And I think I have on the picture here that the issue here is the trees. And I'm not the Lorax, but I am Mr. Hamlin's attorney. And if you see the blue line that's at the top of the picture there, that's a line of sycamores and evergreens. And if the roadway is expanded to allow for 4 lanes, he'll lose all those trees. Those are the trees that are there when he bought the property. They provide a buffer between him and the roadway. And if there is condemnation, as proposed in this current proposal, then it would take those trees. So as part of the presentation, and if we look at the second paragraph here, the ultimate condition, that being the ultimate condition to provide that there should be 4 lanes, is not anticipated to be necessary until after the year 2040. Daily traffic volumes warrant a 4-lane section are typically at least 1,200 to 1,500 vehicles. That kind of volume isn't present anywhere along the 159th to 179th Street corridor, and nowhere is there a projection that will ever be. We think the relevant inquiry is necessity, and that's a defined term. I'm not asking you for a legal conclusion, but in general, necessary is no more property of a private individual and no greater interest can be condemned than set apart for public use than is absolutely necessary. Indeed, the condemning body has no authority to appropriate private property for only a contemplative or speculative use in the future. When the condemning body is uncertain when the future use will occur, the future use becomes unreasonable, speculative, remote as a matter of law. So I'd like the council to consider that, given the committee's findings, given the traffic volumes, and given what is in this FAQ, that it may never reach the volume where 4 lanes is necessary, that this council not adopt the ordinance to condemn Mr. Hamlin's property. I'll answer any questions.
Just one question. Did you come and present this to the Public Works Committee?
I was not involved at that time, Your Honor, no.
So nothing, no discussion was had at the Public Works Committee? By you or your client?
No.
Okay.
Certainly not by me.
Other questions, Mr. Spears?
Thank you. I can appreciate your client's perspective and position. I don't have an issue with that. Our practice is that when we anticipate something being 4 lanes, we acquire the property to make it 4 lanes, even if it's just 20 years out. So we can address the issue now rather than 20 years in the future when it could be more developed, more of a problem, and more expensive on everybody's part. Should he lose those trees, and I don't know if they'd be taken out right now or not, because I simply don't recall, by just acquiring the property, because if we don't expand it to that point, the trees aren't going anywhere. Plus, it gives him an opportunity to plant the trees now, so that in 20 years, should they come out, he'll have a replacement tree. As it says in the wall in one of the local nurseries, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. So we're giving him that opportunity to plant those trees today, so in 20 years, they will be mature and in place. So I appreciate his position, I appreciate yours, but quite frankly, as Chair of the Public Works Committee, I simply don't agree with it. So, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Spears. Mr. White?
Yeah, the question I have for staff, and it may be Mr. Hoffman also, which is, when we acquire right-of-way like this, and we're not looking for an immediate construction project, do we go on and grade it and level it out, or do we just let it sit until we need it?
Thank you, Councilmember White. It's my understanding that this property will be used for drainage, specifically culverts and ditches.
Okay.
We also intend to relocate one time, not twice. So it is true that it will be utilized at this time. It won't have a road on it, but it will be utilized.
Okay, that really answers that question. The second question is as part of this process, will he be compensated for the loss of his trees?
Absolutely. As you're aware, there's well, I say that, to the extent that it contributes to the fair market value, and that's a decision that the appraisers will make at the appraisers hearing. So that determination is made by the appraisers.
Theoretically, he could have the funds necessary to replant trees, and when the property is used in 20 years, he would have mature trees at that point. Does that sound about right?
Theoretically correct,
And I'm-
but it hasn't
I'm just-
been through that process yet, Councilmember White.
Thank you very much.
As I understood the answer to your question, they're going to take the trees now. And put simply, is that true or not? I mean, I don't.
Councilmember White?
I don't know. I'm looking to the staff for those answers, so I don't know if Mr. Hoffman knows, if we've got it figured out that much.
Councilmember White, I don't have the plans in front of me, but I believe that the plans currently are providing for saving as many trees as possible. I don't know if it's still taking some or not, but I know there was a revision recently to save some, if not all, of the trees. As I said, I don't have the plans in front of me, but as was said earlier, if the condemnation process finds trees are damaged, property owners will be compensated for that.
And as far as looking at the trees that can be saved, is that something our arborist gets involved in? Or I just don't know the process.
She does at the request of Public Works.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions of the applicant? Mr. Lyons, do you have a question of staff or of the applicant?
It's a question of staff as a result of a comment from the applicant. I want to
Okay,
just clarify. I guess Mr. Pickering made a comment. I think the way I interpreted what he said was that the statute that he was quoting indicated that we can't take land on a speculative nature, I think is what I heard. I'm probably not quite saying that right, but as I think I heard staff say, is that that's not the case here. And I just wanted to confirm
That is certainly our position, yes,
Okay.
that it's not speculative. We will be using it.
We will be using the land. Okay, thank you.
I think that's all the questions for you, Mr. Pickering.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It's back before the council, Mr. Spears.
Thank you, Mayor. Seeing no other questions, I would move for approval of PWC S2 ordinance number CON 3224, authorizing and providing for the acquisition of lands or interests therein by condemnation for the construction of certain sections of Quivira, 159th Street to 179th Street in the city.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance CON 3224 Further discussion? Yes, Mr. Lyons?
I guess I'd just like to make one comment about this. This seems to me that this particular situation is occurring as a result of a change in our policy, which was previously that we always, when we built thoroughfares, would build a 4-lane divided thoroughfare. And in an effort to really save money for the city, we've decided that going forward, that we would build out the thoroughfare as a 2-lane divided thoroughfare until there's such justification for traffic that required it to be 4 lanes. And as a result of that, that's going to cause us, even though we're purchasing the land or setting aside the land that we're going to need for 4 lanes, we're running into this situation, which I'm concerned we may hear about this more as we have other similar kind of situations where there's not a clear understanding of why we want to go ahead and purchase the entire right-of-way for a 4-lane when we're only building a 2-lane.
Councilmember Lyons, that's correct. Based on the study that was provided for the southern portion of the city, given density, we changed our methods, going from a 4-lane divided thoroughfares to 2-lane, and get the right-of-way for 4, and not maintain 4 lanes for up to 20 years.